This speaker has been recorded at an online meeting of Addictive Eaters Anonymous. You can email us at contact@aeainfo.org.
I'm Henrik. I'm an addictive eater. Thank you for asking me to share, and thank you for the meeting, and welcome to all the new ones. My childhood, I have a sister who is 1 year and a half older than me, and then I had two smaller brothers, and I was a very silent child as I was young in my childhood, and I can see in the back that I have had some ways around food that was not normal. I stole money from my mother's purse in a very early age, and bought pastry for the money, and a lot I bought. As I grew older, I got a job with delivering newspapers very early in the morning, and I came after the other guy who delivered the morning bread and pastry, and so and I stole that as well, and I can see that this was. I've done a lot of searching for finding people I could say sorry to for this, but I also stole my mother's cigarettes and my father's cognac. I liked whipping an egg and then put a little dash of cognac in a very early age. So I grew up, and I was an Elvis fan, and I was very obsessed with my hair, and I should look like Elvis, and I was completely white hair. It didn't work actually, but overnight I changed from Elvis to Rolling Stones, helped by my big elder sister, who took me to concerts, and I became a hippie. And it was in the 60s. I found that the drug of no choice was some hashish, and then after a while some pastry or sweets and so on. This was my favorite way of getting high, and down a little with all kinds of food. Mostly bad food from places I could at night time find and draw out a box and have this awful pastry. I joined the hippie trail to the Far East, and as long as I had some drugs, I didn't feel any fear. But at that journey, I got very sick by dysentery, and I felt a new form of fear fear of not having supplies enough, not getting food. And many years after, I returned again to this Tibetan doctor who cured my stomach because and I was inspired by I had some spirituality, actually, New Age spirituality. I was attracted to meditation and correct eating and so, but I didn't have any self-discipline. So every time I set up a rule for how to eat, I broke it, and I ended up in a grill bar or somewhere else. Got out of school, and my father wanted me to have an education, but I just took a job as a construction worker and started to earn money, and I did the opposite of what he said all the time. So I turned from this silent child to be a very provocating child, and smoking hashes and taking drugs, and of course he didn't like that. But I moved away from home and lived in different communities, collective communities, where there was party all the time, and a lot of things was going on. I again made such a overnight transformation to be from being a hippie to be someone. An atheist without any belief or spirituality, and I got my eldest daughter at that time, and the relationship with her mother was not very good, and we ended up splitting up, and when I was 35, I started an education as a construction architect, and finished that. And I could see that I had been used to drink a lot of beers at the working place, and I couldn't do that any longer. So I started to eat and to restrict eating, and at the same time I was a heavy smoker, and I told myself I could switch when I shift between hashish and alcohol. I could for a month stay without one of the drugs, but I needed drugs all the time, and actually it got worse being educated and having more responsibilities. So I wanted to save the world, so I got a job as a development worker and in Nepal, and I was very angry. I was in an area where there was no food, there was no electricity, and there was no hashish, and there was no booze. It was a dry area, and so I had to stop, and I was feeling very, very bad. stopping without any kind of medication, and I was exercising on mountain bikes and so in a very hard way. I was hit by 2 strokes shortly after each other, and I got paralyzed in one of my left side, and I couldn't speak. I lost speak. So I know that being an addict, a food addict, is dangerous. It's my high cholesterol was one of the reasons, and the other reasons might be plenty. But I can see that my whole life has been without any kind of discipline, or so. I couldn't say no to anything, and I was really destroying myself, and yeah, I got my company ended the contract and sent me home, and that was in year 2000. I heard all over the. I started with some in Nepal. I started with some acupuncture and some of these new age techniques and so. When I came and when I came home to Denmark again, I was putting that on away, because I heard people share about serenity and told about serenity prayer, and I realized that I was a heavy smoker. I was a heavy drinker, and I had many things I was addicted to, and I found this 12 Steps fellowship where I could starting with cigarettes and alcohol, and shortly after that I could see I had a problem with the food, and I started another food fellowship. I was my life was a mess, and I was I didn't know what to do, and I was desperate. So I tried to do as suggested, but I couldn't actually feel that the physicality, as Dr. Silkworth talks about, was diminishing, and so I couldn't feel that I had a new way of being spiritual, because I still was using the food. And it took me a long time to find out how to surrender. And when 2019, I got to my first AEA meeting in Copenhagen, and I could feel that this way of working the program on was talking to the healthy things in me, that this fellowship had some this food plan and so was I really like to be a member here in the AEA. I really need it because I know this is a disease that kills, and I want to live. I want to surrender all my addictions to a higher power, as I understand a higher power, and having a sponsor and working the steps and helping others is the solution. I'm slowly getting more and more mature and growing up after all these years of powerlessness over my addictions. Shows me that there's a way out, and I hope you all can find that way. And with that, I'll pass. Thanks for listening, Michelle.